Hello and welcome to another episode of Kaffee and Kuchen with Internationals. Today we have with us Tammam. I'm very happy to welcome you, Tammam, as a guest on our podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, sure. So, as Sanchi mentioned, my name is Tammam. I'm 28 years old, teacher education student, working also in education, usually doing workshops with youth and pupils. Um, yeah, before that, I used to study political science, sociology, and comparative literature. But at some point, I just had a career crisis, didn't know what to do with my studies, and thought it would be very nice to teach youth about uh, politics and social issues. And before that, I used to study physics, and at some point, I had burnout. I was good at physics in school, but university physics and school physics are just like two different dimensions. And before that, I started an electrical engineering study, but that wasn't interesting enough for me. And that was like 2016, I think. And a year earlier, I arrived in Germany from Syria when I was 18 years old.
Wow, so that means, okay, that's such a wild ride. Wait, let me take it all in first. So that means you've been here for like 10 years
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Okay, and you arrived at the age of 18. Did you
true.
already have family or someone else here, or did you arrive alone?
Yeah, like kind of not close family. My family was sincere, like my parents and sister. And I had my uncle and his family living in France. And I remember visiting them like quite like in my second year here after I arrived. They were a few months before me in France. Um, yeah, but it's not like I had very much support of them. I mean, like uh, emotional support didn't have of them because not that they're not loving people, they are very much, but they are far away. Like I can't just when I'm in a bad mood or something, just hop on a train and travel because they even used to live in southern France,
Oh
so
wow.
in Toulouse, and so yeah, it won't be an easy journey to make.
Yeah, so that means wow, okay. So you moved from Syria to Germany, different continents, different cultures, different language at the age of 18 by yourself without sort of any close family nearby, right?
Yeah,
I
you,
can imagine that must have been very difficult.
yeah, it has been, and it took me a while to realize that because I was very excited about coming to Germany, and it was like a dream coming true to study outside Syria and to have more possibilities than I would have had in Syria. And because I didn't just accept the fact that it was so difficult, it made it even more difficult for me because I would be feeling bad and at the same time thinking, why the hell am I feeling bad? It's not supposed to be this way. I've looked for this moment for such a long time. Yeah. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good point that you raised, which is you can move to a different place because you wanted to, and it still does not mean that it's going to be easy, right? Because
Yeah.
it's never easy to move, I guess, and even if you move because you wanted to move, it comes with its own challenges. So I want to ask, maybe I'm going to try to ask something that I ask every guest. Sometimes I get a fun answer, sometimes it's not so fun, but we'll see how it is with you. Which is, so when you arrived from Syria, in 2014, I think, 10 years back, right?
15. Yeah.
15. Okay, yeah,
Almost 10 years.
more or less, yeah.
Not like 14 years.
um, what was your first culture shock? Like, what struck you?
Uh, like I would say the most what struck me, maybe not the first, but the most was the unspoken communication,
Mm-hmm.
uh, body language, what would you say what will have another meaning? Like you might say something, but it's known in one culture to mean something else. And yeah, like the German dialect, that's I think that's bullshit. Been lied to and bullshitted so many times by Germans. I think they are direct. Uh, yeah, I don't, but maybe I have also another different level or another interpretation of the word rather than it's other people that find German pretty direct. But yeah,
So, in your case, it was more of a breaking of a stereotype that people usually have, which is, oh, Germans are very direct. And in your
yeah,
experience, it was like, not really.
yeah. That's one part, and the other part is as I mentioned, like what I would really call the cultural shock is
Hmm.
the unspoken communication. Because before that, I only lived in Syria, known Syrians, and known this kind of communication.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but then came to Germany, and there was like the whole unspoken communication and German body language, which I wasn't familiar with. And for the first time, I was faced actually with a foreign or a unspoken communication or communication that I wasn't used to it. And
Hmm.
that's what's, yeah, shock.
So, maybe for the listeners as well, what do you mean really by unspoken communication?
Hmm.
Like, do you have like an example?
Yeah, I would say like body language. I would say that uh, if you say something, but it has like a hidden meaning in
Hmm.
it. Uh, yeah, like I will have an example from the Syrian culture because I know it's like the example that always comes first to my mind. And yeah, so in Syria, if someone's invite you to something, you can say yes after the third time, after
Hmm.
the third invitation, because the first invitation is just like, because if I say, hey, I'm having drinks with friends sometime this evening and don't invite you, that means I don't like you. I don't, let's
Hmm.
reduce the communication between us and to a minimum. And if one, it's like, we're cool. We like each other, but maybe you're not appropriate or we are not that deep of friends. I don't have a strong relationship. A second time, then we are close friends, but maybe you don't suit or this meeting with friends, there's not like a place
Hmm.
for you if you know what I mean. And the third time, like, yeah, it's a genuine invitation. Yeah, I like you, we're close friends, let and it's a suitable gathering of friends which
Hmm.
like you can join. Yeah. Um,
And in
yeah, so
contrast to that, in Germany, that would be you get invited once, and
mm,
if you don't come, then you don't come,
yeah, exactly. Like one invitation is sincere.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
exactly.
that's yeah.
Okay, so that's very interesting. That must have. I mean, I can also imagine that must have been a little bit confusing, because there's so many layers.
Mm,
At the beginning, you have a different language.
mhm,
Then you are also in a different country with different
mm,
systems. So you're trying to navigate that, with all the visa and
mm,
university systems, and maybe in your case also trying to figure out what it is that you want
mm,
to do in the future, right?
yeah.
And then there's a layer of not having sort of your close social circle
Hmm.
yet, so your support system. And then there's also the layer of, did I already mention language? Not sure.
I don't think we didn't talk about it
I
yet. Yeah.
lost count of
Mm,
so many layers. So anyway, with so many layers to also then navigate these kind of unspoken rules,
mm-hmm.
of society, I can imagine that it must have been very confusing.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate that? How did you sort of cope with that?
Oh, um, I think, to be honest, I don't think I found a good coping mechanism.
Hmm.
I tried, I would say, to work my way through it, to um, to just adapt to the situation and reality I was in. Um, like one support system, I would say that because of the situation in Syria since 2011 and especially uh, in 2015 after, and since so many people left Syria and came to Europe, and Germany took, or many arrived in Germany.
Hmm.
So actually, of my closest friends before I left Syria, I have only one friend who left in
Hmm.
Syria, and so many of them are in Germany. So I tried to keep a connection to them, tried to see them as much as possible, and like I think like if you compare our situation to just
Hmm.
a German situation, I don't think they keep as close contact with
Hmm.
their childhood friends as we did. So yeah, that was my support system and still one of mine. Like, there are people who I can really count on, and um, like if I had a difficult situation, they will be there for me, and I would
Hmm.
say the same about me for them. Like I would
Yes,
support them. Yeah.
I think the most important is sort of to have a support system, to have sort of your social net, that
Mm.
you can fall back on, sort of if
Yeah.
you need support or if you're lost or if you just need to talk, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, like,
Mhm.
especially with that last point, if you need to talk, I wouldn't say that I can talk with this group of friends about anything because they are still very private topics. And at that point, you know, uh, psychological therapist would be,
Yeah.
or psychiatrist would be a good choice. But I think, as many people know, in Germany, it's quite difficult. But what you also can find are um, many consolation,
Hmm.
uh, uh, what like
Services. Yeah.
opportunities or
Hmm.
services. Yeah. All you need is to Google. Well, like in the preparation for this, I
Hmm.
was wanted to check like or to mention a website. But when I Googled, like I found so many, and they're different from region to another.
Hmm.
Uh, because it's a uh, because it's a federalism, Germany,
Hmm.
and so each state has a bit different system and have different offers and services. So you need to check for your region. But I think, and there's also an emergency hotline
Hmm.
which everyone can call in very difficult situation until you find a therapist or until you find like a consolation, or if it's no one was available at the moment, if it was like
Yeah.
pretty late or
Hmm.
something like this, or in the weekends. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also a very good point. I think we are fortunate to be living somewhere where mental health awareness is
Mm.
relatively high, at least in the younger generation, I would say,
Hmm.
right? So to really ask for help if you need it, if you really can't take it anymore, just reach out.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think maybe also language is not such a big issue. I think in major cities you can find therapists or counseling
Hmm.
services also in English, if I'm not wrong, right?
No, no, I think it's possible because also many are not German born or
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, so I think, or like by themselves are foreigners. So you
Yeah.
might, like, I have friends who are doing constellation or therapy in Arabic.
Okay.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
the Arabic migrant community is pretty
Mm-hmm.
large in Germany comparing
Yeah.
to maybe other, but there is still the possibility
Mm-hmm.
to find in your native language. Otherwise, also I would recommend, which is a possibility, like people who want to become a therapist need to do this training,
Mm-hmm.
and during that training, they need to do therapy with people, and uh, they it's easier to find therapy places or to
Mm-hmm.
have a yeah. therapist. So what you need to do in that case, and since they are from the young generation are
Mm-hmm.
doing, they're pretty young, then it's also have like a larger possibility of to for them to be speaking English or
Mm-hmm.
maybe other languages. Um, but yeah, if you're looking for such situation or you have difficulty finding a therapy and you want maybe to get therapy by a person who is being prepared or doing
Mm-hmm.
this preparation training to become a therapist, you will need to find first a school which
Yeah.
offers that, and then contact them and ask them if, yeah, if there anyone available.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, which is also very different from a region to another. So can't
Yeah.
like recommend one website or anything, but
Yeah, true. So now that we're on the topic, I will maybe go back to something that you said, that you mentioned, which was, how Germany took in a lot of people from Syria due to the conflict. So living so far away, and although your family and a lot of your friends were already out, let's say, of the country, living so far away when the first place that you've known to be home is in conflict, I can imagine that it's very, very difficult. Also because you don't have so much opportunity to go back and visit if you want to, right? You don't have that freedom, I guess. So I want to ask, how did you cope with this kind of a situation, this sort of conflict situation back home, because you're also so far away, and
mhm.
there's only so much, I think, that you can do, right?
That I think in my situation, it's good to mention some background information, which
Hmm.
is that the situation in Syria or started in 2011 in what's called the Arabic Spring, where people start demonstrating for uh, because Syria was a dictatorship
Hmm.
back then, uh, and still till 2 weeks ago or something.
Hmm.
Um, so that people start demonstrating for more freedom, for having um, state based on a lawful state where not on if someone like up in the hierarchy of the system of the regime, then they can do whatever they want and can't be prosecuted. Um, so people start demonstrating. Their regime, led by Bashar al-Assad, reacted brutally and like it started with police shooting at peaceful demonstrators and escalated uh, into a war because
Hmm.
people couldn't just stand there and not defending
Hmm.
themselves. And I can't judge. I don't think anyone can judge them for doing that. But anyway, it's made it only more difficult. And uh, from 2015 till now, Al-Assad was and the Syrian regime was supported by Russians. So yeah, the rebels group um, became weaker and just fell back and didn't have a chance to fight back. Uh, so when I came in 2015, and it was starting to look very dark because on one hand, also it was back then when I also started becoming bigger and
Hmm.
bigger and taking huge parts of the land, and on the other hand, you had the regime being supported by Russia, Iran, and other. Um, so it felt like, yeah, that's it. The
Hmm.
peaceful revolution is now part of history. It was just a failed attempt. And I was very involved since, like, at least, um, like mentally and
Hmm.
personally. As I mentioned, I was 18 when I came to Germany. So during that time and year before, I was a youth. And although I took part at some demonstrations, won't say that had a huge impact. It personally meant something for me. And to feel that so many people lost their lives, so many
Hmm.
people got imprisoned, and for a better Syria. And at the end, it was like for nothing, like that thought, and I couldn't honestly deal with that. Like until last week or 2 weeks ago, if I had this thought in my mind, I will just start crying, and
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't deal with it. Yeah. So I just ignored all the news and kept, but didn't follow anything that's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
But like the big headlines, because it was for me all the same, like nothing was changing. Yeah, and as I think many people know that 2 weeks ago, Al-Assad left Syria.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no, 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, the rebels started their offensive,
Mm-hmm.
and 1 week ago, Al-Assad left Syria, and now there's like a bit of hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bit of hope about a democratic change and democratic
Mm-hmm.
process that people have been dreaming of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I hear is there's not so much you can do to avoid mental engagement, but that maybe giving yourself some time and a break from constant news and
Mm,
constant media input is helpful to
mm.
sort of balance that engagement out, right?
Yeah, of course, to get a break, and that doesn't make you a bad person if you
Mm-hmm.
involve yourself less in the world issues, because on one hand, what can you really do? I had the same situation with the war on Gaza, but what could I do? Like on all what I did is just follow the news, see how horrible the situation is, and feel bad and angry about it. But on the other hand, couldn't do much. Like
Yeah.
what I can do is to take part at demonstrations here and to uh, make people or inform people and try to
Mm-hmm.
spread awareness, and that's here, and that's um, what really counts, and not just
Mm.
watching the news and feeling bad about it. Or yeah. So yeah, to answer your question, I didn't. My coping mechanism was to capsulate myself or
Mm-hmm.
to separate myself from what's happening in Syria. But it's also like I think it might be a certain situation because it was so emotional, and it was because it was a civil movement that
Mm-hmm.
for a long period of time felt as it was a failed attempt. But maybe in another situation, um, yeah, it would be different in for
Mm-hmm.
another person. But it's always like whereas people got to look after themselves and
Yeah.
see what's where um, where they can do something, and if they don't, how they can take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important to because I mean you're maybe also not of any help to anybody if you're not taking care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
If so, I think that's a very important point that
Mm.
you put forward. Um, I'm gonna cycle back to your very interesting study journey.
Mhm.
I was fighting the urge to use CV,
Mm. Yeah.
You explained how you shifted courses till you really found something that you liked and that you see yourself doing, in the future. And I want to ask you, how did you navigate this? First of all, to sort of recognize it for yourself in the
Mhm.
first place. And the second place would be, what kind of systems were there in place that made this easier for you, right?
Mhm.
To understand and then to also shift.
Yeah. I listened to my gut. That I didn't feel that motivation in some. So like the first one, I didn't feel that motivation and felt like it's not really what I'm looking for. It was the electrical engineering study because, um, yeah, in high school, uh, yeah, I was very I was very interested in physics, and I felt this so doesn't fulfill my interest. And um yeah, so I wanted really to get to know more how things really work, or the laws that control the universe. Uh, and before even I begin with my study, it was like clear that I wasn't really sure if I want to study physics or electrical engineering. Um, so I did that change because it was pretty clear. I tried this one and I feel, didn't feel that fulfillment. Um, and in physics, I just like it was very interesting, and still I think it's one of the most interesting science. But I uh, didn't have what it took. Didn't wasn't able to really to 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 have like success in my studies, and at the same time I was taking myself to the limit. Um, like how I remember that in each semester we had first exams and second exams, and the second exam are just same. They are just if you did fail the first exam or didn't have the time to prepare, there is chance to do the exam again. And like before, when I start preparation, like I just after the regular semester, and I would feel so burned out and didn't feel that I had the energy to prepare my first exams, and just wanted to break after the semester ended, over the classes. And after a few semesters, I felt that yeah, like I'm it's something that will take me a lot of work to do it or to be successful at, and at the same time, it will take a load on my physical and mental health, and
Yeah.
it's something. And at the same time, didn't was very one-dimensional person. I had only time to just for physics, didn't have time to other things, and I didn't want to be this person. And that's not what I want to be. And I thought, okay, maybe I need to look into my other interests. And then there was the compar um, comparative literature, and political science and sociology. And yeah, and after a while, I didn't, I started that study. And after a while, I thought, yeah, but I wasn't really enjoying it, but thought, yeah, what's come after this? Um, what do I want to do after this? And um, all the opportunities that I had weren't really for me, or didn't see myself doing them. But I really enjoyed political science and sociology, to concern myself with political issues and social issues. And I had, when I was young, or when I was doing my um, baccalaureate, which is like a high school
Yeah.
diploma in Syria, I was really inspired by my teachers, some of them at least, and thought about becoming a teacher. But my mom herself, a geography teacher, um, worked so hard to take this idea out of my mind because she was very exhausted, and in Syria it's much more difficult to be teacher than here, and she felt unappreciated. And yeah, teacher in Syria are really appreciated, and I think they are underappreciated on
Yeah.
in most countries of this world. Um, so yeah, like that time I started to look back, because it's also something exhausting to, and you doubt yourself when you have to change so often. And um, yeah, so all the time I was like looking back at myself, what were my interests, how did I develop personally, what changed me, what changed in my life. And I think during my stay in Germany, during my stay or since I came to Germany, my personality, I would say, developed a lot and changed. So it was difficult to find exactly what I
Mm-hmm.
wanted. Uh, but yeah, as I mentioned before, I thought it's really, really interesting and really meaningful to
Mm-hmm.
teach youth about politics. And because I of heard so much of my German friends how politics was discussed in school or social issues, and very often that was very dry, just about how laws
Mm-hmm.
being come uh, come to existing,
Yeah.
or other just boring stuff, I would say,
Yeah.
and very far away from daily life or their interests.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought I took that step and changed, and because I need another subject to teach. You can't just teach one subject
Mm-hmm.
in German. You need to have two. I took geography, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like mother, like son.
Yeah.
Uh,
So what were the
um,
systems sort of that
yeah,
helped you, that enabled you to,
mm,
or supported you to make these changes? Because I know from some other countries that this is not easy to do at all. You can't change majors or the whole course that
mm,
easily.
yeah,
So I'm just curious,
mm,
what were the systems around this?
yeah. So to be honest and clear, I don't think it's even for many expats or people who come to study in Germany and have a
Hmm.
student visa, it's that easy because um, you can maybe change your subject at university quite
Hmm.
easily, but the Ausländeramt or uh, Foreigners Bureau
Hmm.
won't allow it that easily, and um, people might lose their visa
Yeah.
because they change. So everyone needs to check with them. But for me, what helped very much is this flexibility in the German university system, but also if you failed, like for example, if I failed an exam 3 times in physics,
Hmm.
I can't study anything that has physics in it. So even if I wanted to study an mathematics or medicine,
Hmm.
but sometimes medicine students have to take an
Yeah.
exam in physics. If you failed physics exam in some other topic or some other study for 3 times, you
Hmm.
won't be able to study medicine, I think.
Wow, what a
Uh,
double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, people can make sure. Like, won't say I'm the expert. I didn't try to read laws of
Hmm.
um, the laws of the higher education German, so it's always worth it to go and ask for yourself.
Hmm.
What helped me a lot were the consultation services offered by the university. I went to
Hmm.
psychological consultation because I had so much doubt. I was, yeah, doubting myself, doubting my abilities,
Hmm.
being worried a lot, and being anxious about what if it happened again. Um, and also there are constellation for the study or the topics. For each topic, there is a person or a group of people who are specializing in that console or of constellation for that subject. It's worth it also to go and have a talk with them and ask them what am I supposed to expect, and it's all also it's good to have to talk with or exchange information with people who have experience or are studying that topic, because studying something is very different than having interest in it, because
Hmm.
you can be interested, for example, in physics and wanting to
Yeah.
know all the fun facts and cool stuff about the universe. But when you study physics, you don't just think about those
Yeah.
fun facts and think about, you need to work with the mathematics behind it, and that's need like a certain skills to deal with. Yeah. Um, so that's what I would say. And yeah, for example, if it's very difficult sometimes to have an appointment with Ausländeramt,
Mm-hmm.
with a foreign bureau. So there are also many consulation services by independent agencies that offer consulation for migrants and
Mm-hmm.
foreigners. Um, for example, I think the AVO
Mm-hmm.
would offers such service, or Caritas. I think
Mm-hmm.
those two words are um, pretty known. But yeah,
Okay, I actually didn't know that Caritas also offers such services. I knew that they help out like in terms of like care and health,
Hmm.
but I didn't
I,
know that they also offer, counseling services. So that's good to know.
then I will back a little bit, but it's
Okay.
worth to take a look at least,
Okay.
because I think I was at the AVO, and
Mm-hmm.
um, but I reached this service by the hour, but
Mm-hmm.
not by carriers, but many friends from Syria told me that they very often go to carriers to find some help or um,
Okay.
some support. So I
Yeah.
thought they
That's good.
offered.
And I think maybe it's also worth it to just Google and check out what kind of
Yeah,
counseling organizations are available in your city, right? Because I
yeah,
think I
true.
can imagine every city has different
Yeah.
ones.
Also, if you are a student, you can. I think there is a law consultation or lawyer consultation at
Oh yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
university. Uh,
Sure.
Usually provided by the student parliament,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, but it's also different from a state to another. I approached this consolation service in Aachen and in
Mm-hmm.
Bonn, two cities in the same state, so might
Yeah.
be different in others.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a very good point. So the things that I took from this is one, that there are resources like, counseling services from the university, from private organizations. They might also help you figure out law and everything around visa,
Hmm.
migration, and
Yeah,
things like that. And to always remember that it won't be a cakewalk with the Ausländeramt, which I think we all know, but I feel the need to say it again.
yeah,
And so to be sort of mentally prepared for that, right? But it is
yeah.
possible. It's not entirely impossible. There might be a little bit of struggle involved, but
Mm.
in general, there is flexibility in the German education system to help you find what you really want to do, right?
Yeah, sure. I think flexibility, or at least being flexible, helped me a lot to, and I think you need it when you go to another country and need to learn,
Hmm.
get to know it, and learn how to live in a new country, and how um now, like, usually also in that anti-racist movement, this discussion,
Hmm.
all like it's not about becoming German or just end with another but look different, but it's um you also welcome, and you should stay connected to your culture and bring your
Hmm.
culture. But this country works differently, and
Hmm.
it's a different society. It's different, as I mentioned, communications at Froland,
Hmm.
and you need to learn how to deal with it. Not
Hmm.
meaning you need to lose everything you bring with, or
Hmm.
becoming just another person, but
Yeah.
find your way of
Hmm.
how to navigate the society and the system here. And
Yeah, I
that's
think
need
I think that's a
some flexibility.
very
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a very very good point because very often I think integration is sort of picturized or imagined as you take a person, it comes from another country, you put them through the integration system, and out comes a German. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think that works that way because we're all
No.
humans. We bring our own personalities. We bring our own, I don't know, culture, language, and
Mm.
everything. And of course, when you're in a country, you kind of have to respect, their laws, their culture, their social systems. But that does not mean you have to
Mm.
be one or the other, right? You can be a
Yeah.
mix of both. You just have to figure out for yourself
Hmm.
how you manage it, right? What
Yeah.
feels true to you, kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's a very very good point that you just made. Okay, so I'm kind of looking at the time right now, and
Mm.
we're closing towards
Mm.
the end of our
Mm.
interview. Unfortunately, is there anything that you want to send out to the
Mm.
listeners before we close?
Yeah, sure. I mean, uh, no matter where what background you have, no matter what the situation in your country of origin or your history, it's a difficult change. It's not
Hmm.
easy to come a new country and navigate through it and find new life. Like even if you're coming just to study this 3 years or maybe longer, won't be that easy. And my message is to know that and keep it in back of your head. And when you have difficulties, not to question why, yourself or question why, but to accept it and try to work with it to accept that
Hmm.
you're human. It's a change and you have the feelings and you will miss the people you love. You will miss ha having so easy social connection. I mean, um, or like having the friends you had back in your home country. So it's all of that fine. So just take care of yourself, look after yourself, um, because yeah, you won't do anyone any good if you are doing that. Like you can do something good for the world if you have the energy, if you're feeling good and feeling competent to do that. And don't let maybe this um, system here of productivity
Hmm.
take over you. Don't like it's could be brutal here because you have this capitalist system that always want to achieve more productivity, more success, and more yeah money, and it's like also do more, but don't let it take over you or take care of yourself and look after yourself. And don't like let capitalism win over you. Yeah.
Perfect. That's beautiful. Take care of yourself. That's amazing. I think it's especially important for people going through big changes in their lives, whether it be through moving or whatever else. Thank you so much, Tamam. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here. I hope you
For
had
me
fun
too.
as well.
I did. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you for
for
the
being
opportunity.
here.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Thank you for being here. And to all the listeners, take care of yourselves and see you next time.